first picture you're seeing on the screen is of Maiden Lane. And it's going to be a central part of the story that I'm about to tell. So, have you heard of the 1712 slave revolt in New York City? Well, back then there was about 6,000 to 8,000 people residing in New York City, and 100,000 of them were enslaved. There was also near the port a slave market, so slave traders would bring enslaved people all around. That's going to also be important to our story. So on April 6, 1712, there would be a fire that is set on Maiden Lane at Peter Van Tilburg's house on Maiden Lane. His outhouse, his toilet was on the outside outhouse. And this was the signal that the revolt was about to occur. Behind the revolt were African enslaved people, meaning they were fresh from Africa, not born here. And they had something, they believe it's between 23 to 100 Africans who shared the same religion. So they decided to revolt using religion as their central focus. They were fighting against Christianity, which was used to enslave them, and it was a war in their mind between Christianity and their religion. So on April 6th, they were armed with guns, axes, and knives. Yep, these white people were so sure that Africans are docile and made for enslavement that they were willing to give them guns, axes, and knives. Like, seriously, they really didn't think they would want to be free, because who would not love to be a slave of a white person? Like, that's what they were made for, right? Not. So there are these, after they set fire there to the outhouse on Maiden Lane, we're still on Maiden Lane, and imagine trees, imagine those old-timey houses. They set fire to it. They shot into the crowd of white people, and that's how the revolt began. They shot, and of the shooting came 9 whites were killed and 6 were wounded. So that was 15. And the governor, because they're outnumbered, of course, grossly, the governor, his name was Robert Hunter. He armed the soldiers, as would be the case in a war. And here's it where the enslaved people, if you're walking down on Maiden Lane, first it's steep. And now we see clear roads, it's on a grid and stuff like that now. But back then there was lots of trees, lots of bodies of water. So they were on foot, having no means of transport but foot. And they were chased by the soldiers, and they ran with these weapons. They ran until they got to Canal Street, which is about a mile away, which I made sure to walk to get a sense of what it must have felt like for them. And of course, I cannot understand. And because of what they did, of course, there's a consequence, because there's always a consequence for lashing out for your freedom when it's being robbed from you. So some of the people, the 23 to maybe 100 people that revolted, they killed themselves before they could be caught. So 6 committed suicide. 40 slaves brought to trial, 18 were acquitted, a few were pardoned, 4 burnt alive, 1 crushed by a wall, 1 starved to death in chains, a pregnant woman was kept alive until she gave birth, and then she was executed, others were hanged, and strict slave codes were established. So I'm bringing up this story to memory, one, because they don't want us teaching history They don't want us teaching accurate history, and no one gets the right to muzzle people because the truth must be told, because it's by the truth that we're going to be made free and made whole. The truth sets us free. So I can't imagine how evangelical Christians are promoting not teaching the truth because it hurts their feeling. Because the truth might be an offense, but it's never a sin, says Bob Marley. So back to the point. Why am I bringing it up? Because it's the truth and it must get fresh air and grow into a tree. There are also seminal points that we want to think about. That when you're organizing with people, there were about 900 and more enslaved people, and this small group did not ignite them, did not get them to join them because of differences. They focused on their little religion and made it a religious war instead of a war of liberation. That's very telling for us, that when we're planning something, we have to be as inclusive as possible for the liberation of not only Black people, but the liberation of humanity. That's why people could get around and join in with the civil rights movement, because civil rights are human rights, and it's so encompassing that everybody could be ignited around it. So the first thing, to make sure that whatever liberation that we're planning, that we include everyone, as many people as possible, so that the end result will be victory. Also, it challenges the myth of the docility of Black people and how they were just, yes, sir, massa, I just love being enslaved. No, if given a gun, it's shot into the crowd and it will kill. People did not want to be slaves, and that was because no one is created to be enslaved. People are created by their Creator for freedom, for love, for justice, to enjoy and grow in their time on earth until they go home to meet their Maker. We have to keep on telling the truth, because it's by the truth that we're going to find liberation. We have to organize ourselves with truths that match most people's desires, because Black people are not monolithic. These people here focused on their little religion that the other people did not understand what they were on about, and also it could have been a language barrier. We also must not allow people who want to delude us about how slaves were. We have to emancipate ourselves from that thinking that enslaved people were just happy and going along and not revolting. They've been revolting the moment the ship left Africa. Millions of them drowned themselves. They'd rather be dead than to cross the Atlantic to come over here to this evil regime of oppression. So feel free to comment, like, dislike. And again, this is a page called Thriving While Black. So you might come and not be Black and want to make a comment. I might answer you or I might not, because I will not send to anyone that's not Black. There are many other pages. Have a nice day.